Hey there, Ddraig back with an SFO Grimhammer 2, the Wildwood update. As usual, I will break into two videos. This one will be about the units that the Wood Elves have to play with, which are not in the vanilla game, and then I'll look at the changes in the actual campaign. So let us go to Athelion and have a look at the new units. For my personal favourite faction, the Wood Elves. First up, we shall have a look at the new hero, the Shadowdancer. Much like the War Dancers, they are masters of combat, but also unleash a fearsome shadow magic as well. So the stats jump off the page with high melee attack and defense. They are fast with an excellent charge bonus. The magical attacks really help with the damage, as it's not the greatest at only 400. 300 of this is AP, which is very nice, but it's not the hardest hitters, but they do hit pretty regularly. Also, their fast attacks and their natural duelist abilities make them damn good in a fight. Just watch out for that low armour, which is their main disadvantage, so be prepared to pull them out if they get into trouble. Abilities to talk about, there are a few. First up, Storm of Blades, a powerful melee ability, boosting damage and putting a unit on an absurd 90 melee attack. With some extra damage as well. I personally use this to finish off a unit as they get low. And then with this popped, you can quickly finish the job. Just make sure they are winning, as that debuff does reduce their melee defense, and without your armour it can be a nasty combination. Speaking of your defense, if you're not winning the fight, pop a Shadow's Coil, giving a Shadowdancer a real boost. This allows them to hold down an enemy hero, or even powerful Wards for a time. Mix in a your Life Wizard, and they can really knock down an enemy. Very handy against the real combat monsters that Chaos and other named Wards have, such as Wolfric. Woven Mist is a great ability when charging over the ground, allowing the unit to get into close combat fast and hopefully not take too much damage on the way in from missiles. The only issue with this ability is they again drop that melee defense, so once they get in you have to be careful what you're charging, as a high combat Lord might take them out. Whirling Death really helps against being swamped, as this is one of the main worries for any Wood Elf player. In general, the Wood Elf army has some of the fewest model counts in SFO, so anything that can create a bit of space for you to get out, and in this case cause a bit of damage as well, is a bonus. Shadow Illusion gives you a nice distraction against any enemy, allowing you to get into a better position to retreat, as the AI looks to take that particular distraction out. It's a neat ability, which has some nice uses, and you can use the ability 3 times, so make sure you use it often to get the most out of it. One thing the Wood Elves do lack is cheap cavalry force, and this is where the Grey Striders come in. At only 775 points, they provide a nice little cheap, very fast option to run down enemy units. A personal preference of mine is to make sure you lock down the missile units of the opposition as quick as possible. This will give you a free reign with your superior archers to take it out at any unit you want. This unit provides a cheap way of doing this. With a 100 speed, a good charge, and solid 25 AP damage, they can provide this surface, hassling the opposition units and allow you to concentrate firepower on more high value targets. It is a basic unit, but has huge potential, as the next melee cav is at 1800 points, being the Wild Riders. They are costly, but they are amazing units, but there is such a big break between this unit and that unit. This saves you using Grade Riders for your running down the units. They are not great at this, even though they can do a decent job against low tier archers, but it's a waste of their abilities to rain down arrows from horseback on their fast mounts. The next unit is the Eternal Wardens. The Wardens trained the Internal Guard to fight, so they are no joke in battle. With a rare gold shield, high leadership and defense, and there was some good damage output as well, with a 10 bonus versus infantry, and a solid AP of 20. Where they lack in numbers, they do provide an excellent defense. I prefer one of these in the front line to help deal with infantry, as they do have that charge defense against the Arge. A tough unit for 950 points, but as mentioned they lack numbers, and the armour is only 68, so you have to be careful with them, as they can suffer against elite units, but this could also be said for most Wood Elf units. Special abilities, well, they have the Bolstered Command, a great small buff all around them, and another reason I like them in the front line. Adding 3 to all base stats just gives you a nice solid boost in the front line. While we're on this unit, we can talk about another ability that pretty much all Wood Elves have in SFO. The Gifts of the Forest add a lot of buffs on top of all their base stats. All the Wood Elf units have this buff, except for Tree Spirits and of those kin, making the Wood Elves very dangerous at the start of a fight, and making the Ice Wizard in most armies pay for itself by keeping this buff up as long as possible. Onto some new types of treekin now, the Grove Guardians. This unit is more offensive than the standard treekin. With the standard treekin have more defensive stats, this unit at 1200 has more melee attack and damage, and an AP of 50, with a very high anti-infantry bonus of 25. A particularly interesting unit, allowing you to be more aggressive with your trees, and running them along with some dryads, they can easily get overwhelmed and pay dividends. 2 abilities to talk about. First up is the heal called Blossom, allowing a constant recharge when not in combat, making this unit not the type to sit in combat too long, as you can move them around after they finish off a unit, and they can also retreat to the back line to replenish some health, and then push them back in with that nice charge of 50. As it says on the screen, the damage does scale, so you have to, there's a fine balancing act from how long you leave them into the fight. As for the longer they stay against a weakened opponent, the more damage they will do. But of course their defense is quite low and the actual armor is not particularly high, so making sure you keep an eye on them and pulling them out when needed. Protectors of the Wood adds a bit more armor and helps with the power reserves of your army. Much like the Wildwood Rangers, the Wildwood version is an elite unit, however much smaller at 40 models compared to the 80 of the Rangers, but they do provide a lot of value for their 1250 cost. With good leadership and a bit more armour than the average Wood Elf unit, they do have a Discouraged debuff on their weapons, knocking off 12 leadership on their attack, with a lot of damage, 50 of it being AP, and this is what this unit brings to the battlefield, good solid damage. It also brings that area attack ability, which is particularly effective against hordes. So having 1 or 2 of these particular units in an army against any horde faction really pays dividends. With Stalk and Vanguard, we can either stick them with the main force or go and support units of archers in the Vanguard, which is a particularly nasty combo for the opposition to deal with. A Versa unit for the cost. Also, they have an ability, Wildwood Mastery, adding bonus versus charge to anyone near them, and speed and acceleration increases, making them a very good choice in the Vanguard position. But if you want them in the main army, they can definitely do a job there as well. Lastly, they have Smoke Bomb, which means they can knock down any enemy nearby, giving them the little chance to run away. My personal preference for this unit is to run a couple of them, as they give your army a lot more flexibility when dealing with hordes. Now for a highly mobile, fast unit, the Heralds of Tain, which can give the Pegasus Knights a good race at 130 speed. With excellent damage, a very large charge bonus, and strong stats across the board, this is a very flexible legendary unit, coming in at 1600 points. There is a few legendary units in SFO. This means they can only have that one particular unit once in all your armies. As mentioned, their huge speed is their biggest advantage, allowing them to fly around scouting for opportunities to pick out solitary units, or to chase down elite units, or even get rid of that pesky cannon at the back which you just can't get to. With the Overwhelm debuff re-limiting the damage output, this is especially handy against any units which are causing you problems in the front line. This debuff will weaken them, allowing you the possibility of finishing them off quite quick, and also reducing damage taken from them. It only lasts for 5 seconds, but it's good enough to help push the fight into your advantages. If they find themselves in a troublesome position, they can use the Take Off ability, giving the units a moment of breathing room, and especially handy as flying units can get bogged down quite easily. especially if they get rear charged. Trained by the legendary Skyhawk, a legendary Wood Elf Scout, and were Yord off Percival's bodyguard before he disappeared, and then they swore loyalty to Ariel. The Ashen Hawks is said to be unmatched with the longbow, which is pretty high armour in a Wood Elf army. With obscene damage potential at 79, 22 of this is armour piercing, and with an anti-yarge bonus of 20. This unit excels at dropping yarge units, and with the Cavalry Bane as a debuff, do a number on any cavalry force. With that 200 range, they truly deadly and can melt most cav forces, and only the very high armour units can possibly survive against them. Even when they get into close combat, they are just as powerful, with high stats especially in defence, meaning they can really hold their own against pretty much anything. They only struggle with the ET infantry, as their low armour means them they're quite a vulnerable target. Also, they hit pretty hard at 55, and all that is AP. A truly great unit at 1650 points, and you get a huge amount of killing potential with that cost. If you have an army which specialises in ranged combat, which should be most of your armies as you are playing at Wood Elves, this unit will be the icing on the cake, and can truly unleash a scary damage to any expecting yarge foe or cav force. One special ability to talk about, as well as boosting accuracy and damage to anyone near them, as a unit can only improve watching these excellent marksmen take out the enemy with such precision. Named after the legendary armourer, Vow's Champion are a great sword unit, and is very powerful with 60 models. Good armour for a change, decent stats across the board with high damage output of 75, 25 of that is AP, and they also have an anti-infantry bonus of 10. One of the most elite Wood Elf units you can get, and obviously they cost a bit at 1700 points to be precise, making them a steep investment, but a solid unit with a mix of great decent defensive uses and very good damage output. But putting them against high armour units is a potential mistake. One ability to talk about, which makes them a bit more interesting. God of Smiths Blessing reduces bonus versus yarge and versus infantry, which is a rare ability in SFO and vanilla Warhammer. Make them very interesting to counter particular units of the opposition, as those bonuses do add up, so negating them can be very beneficial to you. It also drops the unit's damage resistance, and is a great way to burn down units, making Vow's Champion best used with another high damage output unit. And with all this potential, they can bring down the elite infantry while not taking as much damage as you might expect. Lastly, we have another legendary unit in Dorfu's Whirlgrove, his own personal bodyguard, with 4 tree men in one unit, each putting out 250 damage and 150 AP. With a hefty charge and high melee attack, this unit does work on the battlefield, capable of going straight down the throat of the enemy and staying there to soak up damage and just creating chaos. Personally, I always support this unit with maybe some Dryads or Eternal Guard, just to help them against any numerous foe. And this unit can be a real thorn in the enemy, and it's particularly tough to get rid of. 2 new abilities to talk about, as I mentioned the Protectors of the Wood previously. First, Rage of the Grove, a huge damage increase at the cost of hurting the actual unit, lasting 30 seconds and can only be used if their hit points are over 50%. So make sure you use this, as the Wargrove can finish off any unit in the game who is active. Next we have the Ammunition of the Grove, magical missiles with 3 uses. Great to use as you charge in to weaken the enemy before you hit them with full force. The Wargrove are particularly good at using these in combat. Being that they're quite high up, being trees, they can have a good line of sight of anything else on the battlefield, so they can easily send a couple of missiles flying across the map to a nearby enemy just to help a flank out. Thanks for watching, and on the screen now is a playlist to show off all my videos on SFO. And recently I have realised that I have never covered the Greenskins update, which is one of the first ones that Venrus did. so hopefully I'll get to that someday. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.